not in Kansas anymore.
You have my curiosity.
Are you telling me you built a time machine?
The Force may be with you. Assemble.
Welcome to Get Real, the podcast where we get real about our favourite pop culture, films and TV shows. I'm Sam, and with me is my co-host Chris.
And I'm here to claim the law of surprise.
Oh my god. that is not known yet, but is...
Something you did not have yet, but you didn't... I don't know.
Okay, well, getting us straight onto it. Today we're talking about the Witcher series from Netflix.
Yes.
Thoughts on this series? Go.
Top of my head. Loved it. It was good. Could have been better.
Yeah. In what way do you reckon it could have been better?
Pacing at times is a little bit off. Gets a bit slow at times, I reckon. Especially like the first episode, first 2 minutes is like bam bam, we're in with the Witcher fighting a cool monster. It's like, yeah, cool. Then after that it sort of lulls, and then it's only in the last 20 minutes that it starts to build back up again, and you really start to find the footing of the show. And then a couple episodes are a little bit slow here and there. Yeah,
I think it does take a bit to get going. However, I think the payoff once it has got going is really good.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely not a series for the faint of watchers.
No.
It's you really need to pay attention, because if you miss something, you're totally struggling throughout the rest of it.
Yeah, you need to just be able to dive in headfirst into a fantasy show and figure it out along the way. You need to not be afraid of something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you struggled with Game of Thrones, for example, I think you probably struggle more with this. It does kind of expect you to kind of know what The Witcher is already about. It is a bit unrelenting with it. It does drop hints and stuff, but it made more sense to me once I got up to a certain point of the series where I was thinking, hang on a second, what's going on here?
Yeah.
That I did have to look online, and a lot of people were asking the same questions at that point of the series.
Yeah.
But also reading a little bit in between episodes and stuff helped me figure out what was going on. There was a couple of times where I had to search up the monsters because I was like, oh, well, what is this and why is this happening? But I think I really enjoyed it. Once I kind of got familiar and comfortable with the world and stuff, I really enjoyed it.
I think I just wasn't expecting it to also be the way it was. It is very much based off the first novel or the first two novels, where they are a collection of short stories. So each episode was short stories, just world building. And I think that's what I felt made it suffer a little bit, was the fact that it was trying to build up, and this first season was all world building, world building, and trying to get us to understand where the characters have been. It felt like season 1 was almost just a trailer for season 2, and season 2 is going to be the meat and the bones of what The Witcher is. Yeah. That's how it felt for me.
Yeah. I mean, even if you've played the Witcher game, the recent one, I still think it helps with the context of everything. But I still think that it's a little bit jarring.
Yeah.
I think it's just unrelentless.
Yeah. You can figure it out from just watching the show. It just might take you an extra episode until something clicks with you.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that it's not hand-holdy with everything, but some things it could do with explaining a bit more. It sounds like I'm complaining a lot. It's still really good. It's just, it felt like it had a little bit of unfulfilled potential.
Yeah.
But the monster designs, amazing.
Yeah, they look
Casting
really cool.
was fantastic. Henry Cavill is great in the role. I couldn't think of anybody else playing that role now.
Yeah, especially when you look at a comparison between his Geralt and Geralt in the games and stuff. I think he does a really good job. I think that character can be quite stale.
Yeah.
In the games, maybe in the game you're making his choices, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's almost quite interesting to see Cavill, play someone who they have to make those choices for the show.
Yeah.
So it's cool, and I think
they have said that it is a lot more based off the books than the game.
Yeah, and I think that the way he is, and he's got a very interesting character. You know,
The fact that it's not all spelled out for you who or what he is what's interesting. Like this dark-seeded past, like he is a loner, and you find that out straight away that he is a loner. Witches are all loners because of what a witcher is, essentially.
Yeah,
and
so
like that informs like why his character is the way that it is.
So in terms of like a brief overview of what this is about, it's very much Game of Thrones. You've got these different families and stuff. You've got these different kingdoms all over the place. A bit like if you play Skyrim, I suppose. It's all you know. It's that whole fantasy thing. You've got monsters. Doesn't really explain where monsters come from. That's more explained in the books and the games. We don't really have to know why they're there.
No.
I only found that out from watching the intro to Witcher Wild Hunt, which I've recently started playing. Thinks you've done the same.
Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt.
Yeah, I recently picked that up on Game Pass on Xbox, which is cool.
Is it on Game Pass?
Yeah, so if you're listening,
don't need to go out and buy it.
Yeah, you don't need to go buy it. Yeah, it's on Game Pass. So if you already have that, you get it for free.
That's what I'm doing next weekend.
Yeah, and the Witchers are these people, right? They are a small. There's not many of them left.
No.
They have these kind of some magic powers, but
they're known as like a mutation of humanity.
Yeah, they undergo something to become a Witcher, don't they?
Yeah.
And
I think it's similar to the Chaos Wielders, like the mages of the world, only it's more imbued within the DNA. They don't need to learn so much.
Yeah, they undergo some like crazy treatment or something to become one, don't they?
Yeah.
You don't see any of this in there. That's all kind of backstory.
Yeah.
And you hear
I
bits
feel
and
like that'll
bobs.
be dove into a bit more in season 2 as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
towards the end of the series, you start to find out more about Geralt.
Yeah, you start to get right towards the end. To be fair, you find out more about Geralt. You get a couple of bits and bobs and flashbacks.
Yeah.
And talking of flashbacks, like without going too much into how this series is set up for those who haven't watched it yet, there's two timelines going on at the same time, isn't there? And
the story's told non-chronologically.
Yeah, there's like one half of it is in like about in the past, and then there's another half that's like in the future.
Yeah, so there's one story running throughout that it is in chronological order every episode.
Yeah.
Whereas the bits with Geralt and stuff are the short stories from the novels, and it's sort of like it's giving you glimpses into these other characters' lives throughout.
Yeah.
Catching up to the main timeline.
You find out how he gets some of his nicknames and stuff like that as well. But it's almost like one of those timelines is running like catch up to the other. Like catches up. It's weird. It's really strange. But
I think it took about 4 or 5 episodes before it really starts to click into place in your head. You're just like, oh, that's happening. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd like, because you're taking for granted all this really weird stuff that happens throughout the series, you almost think, oh, this is going to make sense in like 2 minutes, because you're expecting it to be some weird, I don't know, crazy outer world spell or hallucination or something or something mad like that. So yeah, I mean, have you ever like played The Witcher or seen anything?
I've played
to
a
do
bit of
before?
The Witcher 3
a
while ago.
So we've
Not
pretty
much.
much both gone in not really knowing anything about it. Did you find it easy to pick up?
Yeah. I have seen stuff and like heard stuff about The Witcher in the past, so I knew a very baseline understanding, like especially when the series was announced. I was right, okay, I'm going to find out a little bit about it. But it was basically the stuff that gets explained to you, like what chaos and magic is and what a witcher is, essentially, is all that I knew going into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it does explain a lot. It explains enough for you to understand the show. Like if you want to get into the subsidiary materials, like the novels, the games, then everything will make a lot more sense to you then.
Yeah.
I think like the biggest thing that this series has left me wanting and hungry for is season 2 right now, not in a year's time. I want it right now because, like I said, season 1 felt like a trailer for season 2.
Yeah,
and it's just left me wanting to read the novels and play the books. Like it is a really engaging world. It is like Game of Thrones, but I feel like Game of Thrones season 1 did better at drawing people in and giving everybody the understanding of this is what the story is. This is where the story is going for the next 8 seasons.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a setup, isn't it? Especially where it leaves it off.
Yeah.
So what did you think of all like the magic effects and stuff in it, like visually?
I think the visuals look
I thought
really
visually it
cool.
looked class.
Like,
It looks really good.
The way that magic is used and stuff like that, it reminded me a lot of Doctor Strange, like teleportation portals and stuff like that. Like, you got swirling rings that they jump through and stuff like that. And then all the monsters looked fantastic, I thought. Like, you could tell there's a lot being done practically, but then obviously some of the ones that needed to be CGI, they still looked really cool. And there was cool monster designs, like little scuttling bug things, which look really cool. And then you got like mutated people and stuff, which you could tell was done all practically, and that looked cool with all the fight choreography and these big, huge, bloody rubber suits and stuff.
Yeah, and it's got a killer soundtrack.
Yeah, I think the songs and like the ballads are really cool. You know, sort of like the things that you hear in Lord of the Rings and all that sort of stuff. They were fantastic. I actually thought there wasn't enough music in the series.
Oh, okay.
Enough of a score. Like, there were some moments where, like, you know, like you're introduced to like a new setting or something like that, and I think I'm just trained with like Game of Thrones, Star Wars, especially Lord of the Rings, expecting like this grandiose score to like carry, and like you understand, like, especially in Lord of the Rings, like the score follows the emotions of a character through a scene and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I felt like some scenes were just totally silent, and it didn't quite work for me. That's what I noticed in episode 1. I wrote straight away. I was like, needs more music.
Yeah,
like when he's interacting with, it's not a big spoiler, he's interacting with a female character in the forest, and like it's just silent with the occasional bit of wind blowing through. And I felt like they're really trying to understand each other's characters. A bit of music would have carried it and helped build this connection that they're meant to be building in that scene. That's what I noticed.
So you definitely watch a season 2. Would you watch season 3? Yeah.
I would watch 5, 6, 7 seasons of this.
I think it's filling that void that Game of Thrones left, especially with that last season of Game of Thrones. I think it's definitely filled and satisfied that need for like a fantasy genre with monsters and interesting fantasy elements and stuff.
Well,
so.
I love fantasy. Like, Star Wars is fantasy in space. Lord of the Rings is just straight up high fantasy. I love playing D&D. Play D&D like near enough every week with people in work. Love it. Like, fantasy is my genre, especially at the moment. Like, so anything like that, I'm fully engaged with. Like, I knew I was going to love this series going in. It was just, there are a few things that can be lifted in season 2, and I think now that they saw how well season 1's gone, season 2's only going to be better.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a bit of a tough one, this. I don't think it's something that we're going to be able to talk about for ages because, like you said, it's a big, massive setup, really. And because there's so much in this series that you won't know until you've watched it, unless you've like well into the Witcher IP already, playing the games, reading the books. A lot of stuff just from the first episode is a bit of a spoiler.
Yeah.
Anyway, so. Yeah, Cavill's awesome. The characters are really good. After playing a little bit of Wild Hunt, they're really close to the characters.
Yeah.
Obviously, Yennefer's really good. The Bard, Jaskier, is really good in there. Everyone's really charming. Everything's really good.
I think it's all really well acted. It looks fantastic as well. Like, the sets look amazing. Like, you do feel like you're in like small keeps or castles and stuff like that.
Is this a good live action interpretation of a video game? And would we questionably say it is the best live action interpretation of a video game so far? It's not a video game movie,
but it's also more based off the book.
Yeah, but it's you know, I know the video game is based off a book.
Yeah.
But
it is pretty damn good. Like,
Geralt is based off the Geralt in the video game with the voice and his looks.
Looks and voice wise, yeah.
So,
but that's also based off the book. Like,
it's better than Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, much better than Assassin's Creed.
It's better than Warcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll give you them. Detective Pikachu was pretty damn good.
Yeah. I mean, we've already. I mean, that was already a TV series. That was a video game into a TV series.
That was based off a video game that was nothing to do with the TV series, though.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, yeah. I think this could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
This could have been
flopped.
terrible.
Yeah.
It could have looked awful. It could have just been confusing. It could have just been totally viewer unfriendly.
Yeah.
But
could have been Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. This is definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
For people who don't like violence, it is not worth a watch. It is extremely violent.
Nudity and violence throughout.
It is pedal to the metal, absolutely just hardcore, swearing, everything.
Swearing, nudity, violence throughout.
Yeah, it is hardcore. So let's get into spoilers. So at this point now, if you've not watched The Witcher, probably switch off, come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, this, because I'm only just starting to learn about like the universe, the story and stuff. So in terms of spoilers, in terms of heavy story stuff, obviously you've got the Yennefer transformation.
Yeah.
That I obviously, unless you knew about it, I don't see that coming. That was pretty cool.
I knew that just because of what I knew about their relationship from the game. Because like I said, I've seen things from the game in the past, and I knew like she was meant to be like the most beautiful woman in the realm. Like she was this seductive mage type thing. And when we're first introduced to her, she's got like hunchback, like busted jaw and everything like that.
Yeah.
But that transformation scene was incredible to watch. Like the way it was shot. But it was also kind of terrifying.
Yeah. That was crazy. And you got the bit where she's trying to get that genie back as well. That Jinn. Yeah, that's really crazy. She goes like full psycho from that point. Just absolute power hungry.
I thought she was great. Like she was great when she was like her true form. Like I thought she was like a really sensitive like character that you really felt for. Then as soon like she just snapped.
Yeah.
And as soon as she snapped, she had the transformation. It literally was a transformation. Then since then, like you hate to love her. Like you're kind of rooting for her, but you hate her at the same time.
Yeah,
like she's such like a dick to everyone after that.
And I think like you get towards the end of this season, and you don't really. I think you're torn a little bit because she does go good towards the end, like where they're doing that big fight, that mage fight, where they're trying to hold back Nilfgaard.
Yeah,
and she's a strong, good character in that. But also, you just she's got an intention there where she wants to be really powerful, and all that. So
I think that's a really good arc for her. Like she was downtrodden, and she was the bottom of the barrel. She was the lowest of the low all the time. She had just been beat down, and she didn't want to feel that powerless anymore.
Yeah.
And then throughout the transformation, they have to like have all their internal reproductive organs like ripped out, and that's how they create the magic to transform them. So then from that, like she realizes that this power may not necessarily been worth it, because all she ended up doing was working for corrupt leaders, and the only thing that she thought that she could have power over then was herself and her body, which she couldn't, because she couldn't reproduce, she couldn't be a mother. She felt like that was the only way for her life to go then, and she couldn't.
Yeah.
Which I thought was the only thing keeping me on her side throughout some of the shitty decisions that she was making. Like, I wanted her to almost like rise above the problems, but she was still letting them get to her. I think that's what season 2 is going to do, is her coming to resolve a lot of her issues, which was what the final episode was, when they were having that epic fight and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. That first sword fight where Geralt's in the market and he gets the butcher of Blackhaven, Blaviken or something. Balviken, the butcher anyway.
Yeah.
That's his butcher nickname.
The names are difficult in this show.
Yeah, you'll find that, and we had to watch it with subtitles on to make sure we could remember who people were. And
Yennefer is the easiest name to remember.
Yennefer, Ciri, Geralt, and then I was out. I was like, I can't. I was like, Nilfgaard, Sintra. Yeah, I was really struggling with names, especially with the Brotherhood and the Mages and all that. At that point, I really struggled.
Brotherhood and the Council.
Yeah.
Well, that's the continent.
Yeah, but that's all your fantasy business really coming in.
And
but
it's written by a Polish guy. It's a Polish guy reciting creatures from European folklore and mythology and dark, twisted versions of all of them and grim tales mixed with just general fantasy names. Like Tolkien's bad enough.
Yeah.
And he was English.
But yeah, that market scene, brutal.
Yeah.
That at that point, everything just felt so heavy. All the sword fighting stuff. At that point, I was like totally 100% in on The Witcher at that point.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but that was right at the end of the first episode, wasn't it?
I think
like
so.
It slowed down in the middle of it. The one thing I think it's just because we're spoiled with Game of Thrones. Like you've got the Battle of the Bastards and stuff like that, which then made the fight against Nilfgaard during episode 1 when they're trying to take over Sintra. Yeah. When they're trying to take control of Sintra, like that battle didn't feel as heavy. It didn't feel as good to me as like say the Battle of the Bastards.
No.
Like, but I think it was still amazing. Like if that had came out like 6-7 years ago, we would have been ranting and raving about it. But because we've been spoilt by Game of Thrones with like I said, Battle of Bastards, Battle of Blackwater, and stuff like that, and we hear about like these naval battles that have happened off screen as well.
Yeah, well, that is to tie in with. This is probably spoilers for. It's tough this because the way these timelines run is Geralt's timeline is in the past, and Ciri's is present day.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is you have this weird like catch up moment where Geralt is at the point, so like let's say about episode 4, Geralt is where Ciri is at episode 1.
Yeah.
And then they almost like Ciri.
No,
yeah, that's before, innit?
Yeah, so Geralt's story ends. No. Geralt's story in like episode 6 is where Ciri is. No.
Yeah, no, you're right.
No,
because
it's in episode 7.
Yeah, because episode 4 is where Calanthe, who is Ciri's grandmother, who gets killed in like episode 1 or 2, where she comes back, and I was like, why is she still alive? And I was like, hang on, and I had to pause it and Google it and be like, oh right, okay, there's two different story, two different timelines going, but it doesn't tell you that.
No, because she sat there and she sat next to a girl who looks incredibly like Ciri, and you're like, is this Ciri in the future? But then you're like,
I was like, is this some weird
how did
illusion or something where Geralt's like a trap?
Grandmother?
But then you had that mouse rat mouse trap. I don't know, whatever his name was.
Oh, her like assistant, the mage.
The mage, the sorcerer guy. Yeah, Mousak. Yeah. You had
Moussaka, if you're Greek. It's a Greek dish.
And he appears, and it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, you have that moment where it's like, oh, you realise that there's two different timelines.
Yeah, you realise that's Ciri's mother.
Yeah.
At the like, it's like a medieval like event, sort of like in Brave type thing, where all the families and kingdoms bring their suitor. To see who will win the hand of the princess type thing. Yeah,
and then you've got that bit later on in the story where Geralt visits Sintra again, but he sees Ciri at the beginning, which is what we see Ciri in episode 1.
Yeah, playing Knuckles.
Playing Knuckles with those kids. Yeah. Because he gets tricked, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's in episode 7.
Yeah, and it's at that point then where your timelines then catch up with each other again really quickly, and then at the end we're there, everything's happening at the same time then, isn't it? That's the hardest part about watching this series, is that this season, probably not this series because it's now caught up, that was the hardest part about watching that.
Yeah.
The easy parts were watching it when they were having their own stories. So where like Geralt was finding that golden dragon, and all Ciri found.
You could have possibly had Geralt's story going, and then like say episode 7 could have been just Ciri's story. But I don't think they wanted to take the risk of having like a Geralt free episode. So
yeah, because his character is so good. His character is ace throughout that, and I think like having him always in it and not having an episode without him, you would probably find that, to no disrespect of Ciri, the actor, and that writing of that, because it's all really good, but you would probably find that'd be the weak episode of the season.
Like, you've seen other shows, like I can't think of any to mind, but I've seen episodes where sometimes they'll have an episode which is just based around one character who's sometimes a side character type thing, and like it'll just go on their journey for an episode to catch them up with everything and stuff like that, which like could have worked, and I think that would have helped people understand what was going on more. But the way that they did it was a bit more intriguing. Yeah. Because then you were trying to piece things together in your head as well.
So they're linked by the law of surprise.
Yes.
But the bit I was lost at was, at what point does Geralt claim her as part of the law of surprise? So if I explain what I understand, right? Yeah. He saves... Right, there's that bit at that meal where he's there, and Hedgehog Guy turns up.
Yeah. Really cool practical makeup Hedgehog Guy.
Yeah, he's actually been cursed. Yeah. And Pavetta, who is Ciri's mum, who is young in this bit, it comes out that she's pregnant. But before we find that out, Calanthe says, "Oh, what do I owe you, or what is it? How can we reward you for obviously us not killing this guy because of Pavetta and his love story, right?" Yeah. And he says, "Oh, he doesn't really care or whatever, because Geralt doesn't really care about destiny at this point.
Because the Hedgehog Guy had Law of Surprise.
Yeah, he had Law of Surprise to take Pavetta." Yeah, because of something else. Yeah, but it
just so happened to be at the same time that they fell in love without the law of surprise.
Yeah, but then Geralt says, "Oh, just call it the law of surprise," and he says he just doesn't give an F about it, doesn't he?
Yeah,
basically, he
that's
says
the favour. He doesn't want payment. Just give me the law of surprise. Whatever.
Yeah, and destiny can go F itself. Basically, is what he says. So at that point, from there, where does he then claim Ciri? He goes back to Sintra, right? Yeah. To claim it. So does he just go back because there is something to claim?
No, so he goes back. So Mousetrap,
Mousesack, not Mousetrap.
That's Mousetrap now. He says like, you're gonna have to look after this kid now. Like, you've got the law of surprise. It's gonna be for the child. If not, like, this child is your responsibility anyway, because you're the one that helped those two be together. You basically anointed their marriage. You like sanctified it. So he was like, you've got to like look after this kid.
And at this point, is this because they know Ciri has powers?
No. So this was straight after he walks out after getting Laura's surprise. He says this to him.
Okay.
And then when he goes back there, because he's found out that Nilfgaard is going to attack. And they basically got all the northern cities and the collecting mages and stuff like this. They got the southern cities that are attacking the north, aren't they?
Yeah.
So he knows that like they can't withstand them. They've lost all the navy, which is like a third of their army. So he's like, I'm claiming law or surprise to get your only reigning heir out of here. So he's doing it to try and protect her.
So why do they trick him? Why did they trick him with a fake one?
They don't trust him. They don't trust the Witcher. That's why they end up locking him up as well. So they don't trust him. She's like, no, like, Ciri will be safer with me. I'm her grandmother.
Oh, it's like she has a chain.
Like, they say to her, like, you want to protect her, but where were you all those nights when she woke up howling, crying because her parents were dead?
Yeah, okay. I understand.
They died in a boat crash.
So it was more like Mousesack knew that was Geralt's best thing to do, but he was trying to convince Calanthe.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand now.
So that's why he was like letting him go when he was just there, like I am helping you out here because I'm not killing you, I'm letting you go. But then Calanthe ordered to have him captured and put in the cells.
That's what I mean with this series. There's a lot, isn't there?
brought down by her own ego, essentially. She thought she could outfight anybody. She thought she was stronger than destiny. Like, that's what Mousetrap keeps saying to us.
Mousetrap. Mousetrap. Oh
no. He keeps saying it's just there, like, destiny might side with us yet. Like, we've done everything we can to try and deny destiny because we think we knew better. But really, if we had given her to Geralt earlier, he could have got her far away from any combat. She wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
Or she wouldn't have got captured multiple times and everything.
I reckon
she ended up wandering the wilderness by herself for ages then.
Yeah.
Waiting for Geralt to try and find her.
I reckon this is one of those seasons where, and one of those series where it might be best giving this another watch before you actually go into season 2.
Yeah.
Unless you're like fully understanding what's going on. I think
it's worth a watch anyway. There's small details in there that you'll pick up.
Yeah, for sure. And especially now you know which way it's going, you can probably watch those first 4 episodes a lot differently. Now that you know where the timelines are sitting, rather than being totally confused like I was about where the hell in the plot you was.
What was your favourite monster out of all of them? Or creature? Because there's 2 that really stick out for me.
I like the Striga.
Yeah.
The Striga bit was dark.
Yeah.
Where he's like, like swinging that chain around, and then he has that moment where it just breaks out of it. It was like he felt really overpowered by it.
Yeah. And he was taking those elixirs, which is a resistance to some things. Like, it can imbue them with powers.
That's like his where he goes like Super Saiyan.
Yeah,
he takes one of them and
pitch
goes
black eyes and stuff.
Yeah, he takes one of them, and that's like a power up for him.
Yeah, it would kill anybody else, but because he's a Witcher, he's able to.
Yeah. And also, like, touching on monsters, I like how there's the whole thing, like, he sees some people as monsters.
Yeah.
Like, because of the personalities and stuff.
Like the one that cursed the daughter to become a Striga.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, you're the monster in all this, you cursed an innocent child, essentially. So he just leaves him there to be gutted by her.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. And he always walks this, like, really weird, like, grey line of, like...
He's got his own set of morals.
Yeah, yeah. So what was your favourite monster?
I was going to say the Striga or the Doppelganger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about him for a second, but that's so cool. Like, when he's fighting, like, the Black Knight that's been sent after Ciri.
Yeah.
When it's him fighting himself because it's the Doppelganger. Like, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was so well shot as well. Like, it seemed seamless. Obviously, there would have been touches of CGI on there as well where they needed to do a face replacement and stuff.
Yeah, but that was all really cool.
I've been watching a lot of... have you seen the Corridor Crew, is it? Corridor Digital with the good and bad VFX.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Watching loads of their stuff as well with, like, stuff that you don't realise is CGI and stuff. So now I'm noticing, like, face replacements and stuff like that where I wouldn't normally.
Yeah. I think I think that was really cool, that whole bit. I think now that we've spoke about that, it's weird. Like, there's that big fight scene at the end. There's not a massive amount, really, to talk about from this season of The Witcher. There is, don't get me wrong, there is but not much in terms of, like, because you have that overlap where you see the story again from a different perspective.
Yeah.
A lot of it is a lot of character set in. So the main points that we have is obviously Ciri has Witcher powers. Yennefer and Geralt are tied together because he's made
a wish,
but she doesn't know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Which is to tie their fates together or something like that, I think. And yeah, I mean, we know Nilfgaard is like Mordor. But not essentially orcs, but they're bad people.
Like, they seem to, like, try and paint it in a different light for a minute, you know, with that wizard from the beginning.
Yeah.
From, like, the earlier episodes before Yennefer gets transformed. So he's just there, like, they're not all bad. Like, people were starving beforehand. Now they have something at least. It might not be the best, but they're giving them something to fight for and everything. So, like, they're trying to create this moral grey area for Nilfgaard, and I think that's what it is. Like, we're meant to end the season, and, like, that battle that they have at the end, we're not sure which side we're on because Nilfgaard are doing bad, like they're trying to tear down the establishment and everything like this, but Yennefer's stories taught us to question the establishment and everything that's happened beforehand.
Yeah.
That's why only a select few of them go to fight against Nilfgaard.
Yeah, for sure.
So it is interesting, and it sets season 2 up to be really interesting. That's why, like I said, it felt like a trailer.
Yeah.
And because the two different timelines were going on, it meant that some parts the pacing was strange. It was like Ciri's story was like sometimes like really fast, like she's on the run a lot, and then like The Witcher was having like sort of a slower story going on.
Yeah.
Like when they were chasing after going to find the dragon.
Yeah.
That was like quite a slow story for them. But then Ciri's getting chased by a doppelganger.
Yeah, and now it's just left off at a point where we guess Geralt is gonna take Ciri on and train her as a Witcher with these powers and stuff that she's been.
Which we have seen stuff of that in the novels and stuff.
Yeah, and it's the first thing you see in Wild Hunt.
Yeah.
So that where that leaves off is where Wild Hunt kind of takes on. So what we should see in season 2. If you wanted to go in blind on season 2, then don't listen to the rest of this episode of the podcast. Like in about 2 seconds. Yeah. So there's
spoilers for possible season 2 predictions.
Is just that he goes back to the Witcher's Keep or something, where there is more Witchers like him.
Okay.
Vesemir is like his mentor, who in the Witcher series, the game, you see him with right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And he's training Ciri there.
And that's the one that he gets left with as a child in the flashbacks, is it?
Yeah. So it's
we hear
weird.
His name, yeah.
You see all the Yennefer stuff in The Witcher where they're looking for her. But you have flashback. This thing's just full of flashbacks in like different timelines. But he's having flashbacks of when he trained Ciri.
Yeah.
Where he's with Yennefer.
He's having flashbacks.
Oh my god.
Shut up, Ciri.
Siri is in iPhone.
Talking about
Siri
Ciri with the
crazy.
C.
Yeah, so yeah, it's all over the place. But I think it'll be cool. I think it's definitely I think there's a lot of talking points, but I think not a lot happened in this season.
Yeah, it made me more excited for everything else around it, like season 2, the games, the books.
I think the fact it's a good video game series is such a big thing that they finally done it.
I think with,
and of course, if anyone was going to do it, it would have been Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix were in the prime position to do something good like this.
For sure.
I think it also sets high standards for Amazon's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, hopefully. There's been a bit of rocky stuff about that, though, if you've heard. So let's keep open-minded about that, because we don't want to go in too hopeful that it's going to be like this. If it's like this,
then good,
and no better, I'm still happy.
Yeah,
I'm cool.
I think I'm looking forward to the Lord of the Rings one because it is like they're going to explore different stories as well, which is going to be cool inside of Middle Earth. Also, one last thing, what did you think about the dragons? So I thought they looked kind of naff, like
they're like they're like less cool looking Skyrim dragons because they talk like humans.
Yeah, like the effects on them obviously were great. But I just wasn't a fan of the design of the head. Like, the head felt too small. It felt like a strange lizard.
They're like sheep. Like sheep with scales and wings.
Yeah, sheepy lizards.
Yeah.
We'll go with.
Yeah. I don't know. It was different.
It was cool. I liked the gold one was able to transform into a human.
Yeah, that was a nice little twist. Yeah.
I kind of twigged as soon as, like...
Yeah, he
fell off.
Dropped off that cliff without a lot of reason to.
Yeah. But I had already noticed earlier when they were talking about dragons and stuff like that, his armor looked like dragon scale, and I was
foreshadowing.
I was trying to figure out what those women were doing. I was like, what's their deal?
Yeah, they're just like guardians of the dragons or something, weren't they? So yeah, is there anything else?
I think without going into more weird little details, but
yeah, all in all, I'd say it's worth a watch.
Yeah. That final episode was incredible.
Yeah, I think.
Which was your favorite episode?
I'd say the one where I don't really have a favorite episode. I just have like a favorite scene. That marketplace fight is just so good. So good, so brutal. And at that point, I was like, I am in. I think at that point, I texted you and I was like, have you seen The Witcher yet? It's so brutal.
Yeah.
It's so good. So at that point, I was all in on it. I was like, yep, that's it. I'm
Just
gonna
get
watch
over
rest
the
of it.
first 40 minutes and you'll be sold.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the last episode was nice because it tied everything up together.
Yeah.
But I think
the combat, the siege, and the last episode was really cool.
Yeah,
you got to see new versions of magic in it as well.
Yeah, I think anything where Geralt was in it.
Yeah,
I think I'm buzzing with
Henry Cavill all the way.
All the way.
Cool. He could be anything.
Sweet.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GetRealPod. That's REEL. REEL. Get Real Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The email address is getrealpoduk@gmail.com. Leave us a like, favorite, review, whatever it is, star rating on whatever platform you listen to this on. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and hopefully soon Google Podcasts.
Yeah, if you listen to our last episode on The Mandalorian, we touched a little bit how we were facing just a tiny bit of trouble with it. Hopefully by this point, everything's all sorted. So you should be able to find us all on your favourite app.
Podcast provider.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Saving me at the end there. Cool.
So, thank you very much for listening, guys. Get in contact with us on any of them. Send us suggestions. Let us know what you thought of The Witcher. We'd love to have a conversation. And we'll see you guys in the next episode, which is yet to be decided.
Cool. Keep it real, guys. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bye now.